Hi everyone, it's Deb from Deb's RV Services and welcome to today's video. So I recently went to Pennsylvania to meet up with my friend Carol, who is a master inspector and technician. She also has a background as an automotive technician. So she's really good at what she's doing and I wanted to learn from the best. And I really also wanted to learn from another female in the business and to get some more experience and some more education and the technician side of things. So this video is really geared towards anybody that wants to learn more of the technician stuff, but also females in particular that might have a difficult time because they're getting started in the business. And one of the things that I struggle with is my lack of strength. I don't have the male strength. So I wanted to learn from another female how they do things. And so that's one of the reasons that I went out to see Carol, and because of her great skill and knowledge. So she was okay with me videoing her, and today we are going to dive into an electrical problem that she previously diagnosed. So stay tuned, and I'm excited to share all this with you, and we'll talk to you soon.
So we have an RV that customer called and said none of the electric stuff was working. Came in here to put the slide wall out, and the switch is normally installed right there. So when he put his hand on the wall to operate the switch, he felt a lot of heat in this area. So they immediately disconnected the battery, and when I came out and pulled the switch, this is kind of what I found. So you can see this is roughly 10 gauge wire, and it has completely melted the insulation off of the wiring. And this wiring harness was down in this wall, and it got so hot that it actually melted the butt connector that was holding the two sections of wire together. So that was sitting in the wall, and it was so hot that it was actually melting the insulation off of the butt connector. So yeah, so I cut this out. I actually ended up putting a hole in the wall down here to get access to the end of the wire that was burned. And so I cut and spliced a new section of wire in, and then today we're going to put in a new switch and harness pigtail.
All right, excellent. All right, we'll get to work just in case. So when you're fitting that on there, you have to make sure that the right wires are lined up with the right.
Yeah, it has 3 pins on one side and 2 pins on the other on this particular one. There are some iterations of this that are 4 wire, where it has still the 3 on this side but only 1 pin on this side.
Okay.
The difference in the switch is basically how it gets grounded, but it only fits on this connector one way.
Okay. So then you're getting the right, where you flip the switch up or down, and it goes in the right
correct
order. Okay.
Yeah. So, but you need to make sure that you get it fully seated, because you don't want exposed pins.
Yeah, exactly.
So that will be that.
All right.
Now I have to figure out how I have this wired. And it gives you a little cheater diagram.
Oh, perfect.
When I cut the original one out, I did it in such a way that I would know what goes where. So I know that this red wire went to red because I left a little bit of red on the end of this harness.
Okay.
I know that this red wire coming up from the wall went to green because I left green on the end of this. So I know now that I can cut
where
this
to
back
connect
here
Yep.
and connect my green to this red wire.
Okay.
And same thing with this black, because there's two blacks and there's two reds. And if I didn't do it this way and I came back a day later, I would have no idea.
Yep.
So I know that this black goes to yellow on the switch.
Okay.
So I'll start with the yellow.
Okay.
I'll cut that wire off. And take my strippers. I always give it a little bit of a twist so that I have a solid piece to slide this over rather than just loose strands, because if you leave loose strands, then those individual strands can bend backwards, and then you have exposed wire outside of
Yeah, we don't want that.
connector. No. So then I just take that and squeeze it, give it a little twist and hold it. Take my crimper.
And give it a really firm squeeze.
Oh goodness, yes.
And that's an area that I have to really get that strength built up to make sure that I'm getting that on correctly.
Right. And if you get the longer handled crimper, then you have more leverage and it's better crimping.
Okay.
Okay. Then you give your connector a little tug.
Nice and tight.
Nice and tight.
Good. And you just heat it up to kind of adhere it. Okay.
I wouldn't recommend for somebody who's just starting out doing electrical repairs to use a butane torch like this. But there are electric heat guns available that'll do this kind of wiring repair.
Okay.
Where it just basically shrinks down that connector.
Okay.
So now that's completely watertight and sealed and insulated so it can go back in the wall.
And you basically, you really need to do that with no matter, you know, what situation you have. When you're wiring something like that, you have to either use a heat gun or a torch. It can't just sit there without having that adhered to the wire.
No, you don't need to adhere it to the wire per se, but this is going in a wall and it's not going in a box. So it's going to free float in an exterior wall. And because of that, water can get into this wall. There's actually water damage up here further up. And so I want this to be a watertight connection. Plus that's what was originally there.
Okay.
But you could use the non-melty ones if you knew that it was going to be protected from the elements.
Okay.
Okay. So then I'm going to do red to red. And I already kind of prepped myself with that the other day when I put the butt connector on that red wire.
Okay.
So that one will be the easiest of the bunch, hopefully. When you're doing crimps like this on butt connectors, you want to make sure that you use the part of the tool that's not going to pierce into the insulation.
Okay.
So it's in that part of the tool.
Yeah, not the cutter.
Which has two D-shaped
Okay.
sections. This point here where it has the dimple, that's for non-insulated connectors. That is not for the ones that have the plastic coating.
Okay. Gotcha. that's cool. So that's just a little heat gun.
Mm-hmm.
Takes a little bit longer, but works.
Yep. They make these in battery operated, and also there's butane versions of them.
Okay.
But this is the safer method.
Yeah, that's probably the way I'll do it.
You could use a regular heat gun on this too, which is a little more powerful, but I like this little guy because it gets into tighter areas, but it does take it a little longer. You know it's sealed when it turns opaque.
Mm-hmm.
So these are Wago connectors. I threw it on the end of the wire just to protect this. There's no voltage in this trailer, but if somebody were to accidentally turn that on while I wasn't here, I wanted to make sure that the wires wouldn't touch one another.
Okay.
So I threw these Wagos on the other day to protect the wire just in that event. But in this situation, I wouldn't use Wagos because Wagos are rated for wire gauge, and they're also rated for a voltage and an amperage. Any electrical connection is rated for voltage and amperage.
Okay.
These Wagos, which are sized appropriately for this wire, are rated for 30 amps.
Okay.
This is a 40 amp switch.
Ah, so yeah, that wouldn't work. So they make different Wagos for different, so you could get one for 40 amp?
No.
Okay. So that's as high as it goes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know.
So I wouldn't have left these in place, which is why we're doing the butt connectors, because the butt connectors is actually a wire, what's called a wire splice, and so these will be rated for the size of the wire that you're connecting.
Okay.
These butt splices are 12 to 10 gauge.
Okay.
So any amperage that would run through this wire can run through this butt splice.
Okay. Very good.
Together, just like this one was. Now I just have to make my final connection, so I will trim this back.
Okay.
And make our final connection. Okay. So basically what you have with this system is you have a main ground, a main hot, an in and an out.
Okay.
So this switch is a momentary contact.
Perfect. What about my lights?
Okay, so the customer showed up and started talking, as you could hear from that little bit. So we kind of stopped filming at that point, and we had to work out a couple other things. The battery was dead, so we had to have him hook up to the truck, and that way we could get 12 volts so that we could test everything out. Okay.
So I had to channel out this section of wall when I pulled the wire harness out in order for me to get to all of this. You know, it used to only be that much of an opening, so I had to cut all of this out to get to it, as well as I told you I had to cut this section out.
Yep.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this little faux panel out so that I can pull some of the wire down into the wall.
Okay.
So this is just nothing more than a electrical blank plate, and this will remain as a permanent fixture here unfortunately.
Now, when you're going to do something like that, and with, you know, do you check with the client to make sure they're okay that
sure.
you're putting a hole in the wall?
Absolutely. I told him that I would need to do it, and he says, I understand, and you need to do what you need to do to make it safe.
Okay. Yep.
So I said, okay. And I'm going to kind of put it in here.
Okay.
And fill in that hole or that gap.
So we got to carry paneling on our truck now.
Oh yeah. So we'll cut this down. So I am filling this hole up that we channeled out so that I can get some adhesive in here so that I can put the original tile back in.
Okay.
So I cut the piece of the cutout from down below down so that it fits in this opening, and you'll see it kind of sits behind. So what I want to do is I want to put a little screw in this. Try not to hit my finger.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter if it has a hole in it, in the middle of it, it's going to just, let me put my different bit on. It's going to get covered up with the tile.
Yeah.
So.
Doesn't have to look pretty.
No, it doesn't. But if I put a screw kind of in the middle, like so, I now have a handle.
Ah, brilliant.
And I can hold it tight while I put screws in around the
Oh
perimeter.
my gosh, that's awesome.
So.
And like you said, if you didn't have a piece of the wall already, you would just go out and get some type, you just keep kind of like a...
paneling. I keep paneling and little scraps of wood on the truck for various repairs like that.
Okay.
You don't need to have big pieces generally. If you need big pieces, you know, that means you're rebuilding an entire wall and you're going to go to the home center anyway and get a full sheet. I wouldn't ever carry that on my truck. So I want to make sure that I'm beyond this line here. I'm beyond this line here, and I'm tucked up in there. And then what I can do, if my screwdriver behaves, is hold this tight and take a screw.
I'm watching wires.
There we go.
Great. Excellent.
So that is tight there. And then I'm going to do the same thing. Let's see how that pushed in. So back that out. And sometimes it helps. There it goes.
All
See
right.
how that's snugged up?
Yep. Excellent.
So, and then I'll put one more.
And that's what you're going to use to adhere the
That's what the
little faux brick.
original tile was backed with this stuff.
Okay.
So it's just basically filling in this spot right here so that the tile, when it comes across, is going to be flush.
Double-sided tape, good to have for the truck.
Yes, I only use a product called 3M VHB. It is a high strength adhesive tape,
Okay.
and it actually becomes stronger the longer it's stuck.
Okay.
So I'm putting an extra layer in there to to again make it so that it's flush. So these adhesive tiles come with these pieces of tape that go between them to hold the tiles together at the joint. So again, I'm going to take my VHB and I'm going to just kind of create that with this tape here. So I'm literally just going to stick that there. This stuff's always a pain in the neck to peel.
Oh yeah. Something I learned from Carol is the benefits of carrying a knife. She has used this more than anything else, I think.
Yeah. All right, so we're just gonna kind of get that in place and stuck. That one actually has to move over. Right there.
That's perfect.
All right, now I can take my little piece of tape and stretch it out to there. And then there's this little square they had. That went right there. Put a little more sticky on that because it's not as sticky as the other one.
Okay.
Before I close this up, I'm just going to run a little piece of tape between the switch and the connector. And all that is meant to do is to help hold that connector in place to the switch.
Yep.
So now I feel comfortable enough kind of maneuvering that around as necessary. Pull out my wire, get myself in the hole, and put my screws back in.
All right, looks awesome. Okay, so thank you for watching today's video. I hope you got a lot out of it. I really enjoyed watching Carol work today and how she got creative with certain things in there and how you need to carry things on your truck because you never know when you're gonna have to do something different, like repair a wall. So please comment below. Let me know if you're a new technician starting out or if you're interested in this kind of business. And I will see you guys in the next video.